Hello, dear friends. The events of years are compressed into months and days. Luis Freina. Opinion piece. We are in full reset mode. First shockwave. Geopolitical clashes. Financial revolution. This rise is not smooth. Unpayable public debt. Let's start. We are in the midst of a financial reset. Bill Holder, with Sarah Westall, argues that we are immersed in a global reset, the epicenter of which is the manipulation of gold and silver markets and the loss of confidence in public debt. Holder interprets this as part of a global monetary readjustment already underway because the fiat money system based on debt has been taken to an unsustainable extreme. The global financial reset is an expression used to describe the idea of a profound restructuring of the economic system, changing banks, currencies, debt trade, and investment rules on a planetary scale, after which there would be debt forgiveness and quantum payment systems. At a setting point in the reset, all debt would be erased in one fell swoop. The first shockwave has just hit. According to Binance Square, the old playbook cannot absorb it. With the activation of the new system, the largest asset transfer in history will take place. Banks that do not comply with Basel III regulations will fail, and currencies will have to comply with the ISO 20022 standard. The QFS is the takeover of the central bank's monetary debt system to end financial slavery and control over the population. An advanced financial system launched to eradicate monopolies. The global currency reset is underway, and quantum satellites and protected nodes guarantee the greatest financial revolution of our time. Fracture. Bill Holder argues that in a reset, gold would be revalued sharply to reliquify central banks and clean up some of their debt, benefiting countries that have already accumulated metal, especially China and Russia, amidst the collapse of the traditional financial system. He also describes a recent sharp rebalancing. Large volumes of the metal were sold in a matter of minutes, generating a steep drop that does not reflect the situation in the physical market. He points out that the market is splitting in two. On one side, the price of the paper metal. On the other, the price of the physical metal, which increasing tensions and the possibility of a historic squeeze in the short term for silver and gold. He also comments on accusations that certain Chinese individuals and entities have participated in aggressive operations in these markets, which he sees as part of a financial war and a bid to control the price of metals. Holder insists that the volume of sovereign debt is mathematically unpayable and that default is just a matter of time. He explains that the model has been sustained by lowering interest rates and issuing ever-increasing amounts of debt, but now, with higher rates, debt servicing is becoming explosive and destabilizing the system. This is eroding faith in government bonds as a risk-free asset, accelerating the search for safe havens in physical assets like gold and silver. Economy. Asian stock markets rise and the dollar falls. Bitcoin remains overvalued at around $70,000. The US proposes a trade bloc for critical mineral to counter China's dominance. Italy, France and Germany will lead the EU's plan to stockpile critical materials. Central banks are increasing their gold reserves as strategic hedging intensifies. The Fed will inject $56 billion into the banking system over the next 3 weeks. Efforts to prevent a bond collapse in Japan are extreme. China announces it will unload $600 billion in treasury bonds. Western silver implodes as China and India take control. Asia. US reaches nuclear agreement with Armenia. The trade agreement between India and the US could change the global systemic transition. The BRICS-backed New Development Bank will issue its first Indian rupee-denominated bond before March 2026. India's 400 airports by 2047 project boosts BRICS connectivity in the south. China ordered banks to reduce their holdings of treasury bonds. China bans stablecoin issuance by domestic and foreign companies. China is injecting cash to cover a $456 billion deficit. Markets want to break China's rare earth technology. Taiwan says it is impossible to transfer 40% of its chips production to the US. Beijing declares a restricted zone in the South China Sea for 3 days. Europe. Europe is in decline according to Rabobank. Lagarde believes inflation will reach 2% in 2028. The City of London collapses under US pressure. Europe further expands its monetary protection, challenging the dollar's hegemony. Volvo suffered its biggest drop ever recorded in Sweden. The Netherlands will tax unrealized gains. Germany faces a gas shortage crisis. Germany plans to withdraw $450 billion in gold reserves from the US. Martin Armstrong warns that Europe is desperate for war. Italy suffered rail sabotage near Bologna. Violent riots erupt in Italy as Islamists attack police. Satanic symbols at the opening of the Winter Olympics in Italy. The EU versus Elon Musk. The battle for free speech escalates in Paris. A comedy writer testifies before the US Congress about the crackdown on free speech in the UK. UK is chilling free speech. No, that's a mistake of the automatic translation. Starmer refuses to resign over the Epstein scandal. Cluster of mysterious deaths in the mountains of western Bulgaria. Russia accused of tracking European satellites to spy on signals. China moves toward a Starlink suppressor that could be a game changer in Ukraine. The EU joins forces with the US to reduce China's dependence on rare earth elements. The US has given Ukraine and Russia a June deadline to end the war. Spain. The PP party wins the Aragon elections but needs Vox even more, as the party doubles its support. The IBEX closes at a record high, just shy of 18,200 points. The Spanish government threatens to ban the social network X. Soros praises Sanchez for granting citizenship to 500,000 undocumented immigrants. Elon Musk criticizes Irene Montero's demand to grant Spanish citizenship to 500,000 undocumented immigrants to replace the local population. The railway strike was averted with a 40% increase in maintenance spending. Americas. Emirates seeks to establish a strong presence in the Americas. The US is targeting Mexico's critical minerals. Mexico City Toluca interurban train launch. Sheinbaum confirms there will be more support for the Cuban people. Cuba closes beaches as fuel crisis spreads throughout the economy. Ecuador is pushing to impose tariffs on imports from Colombia. Bolivia will activate insurance for damages caused by poor quality gasoline. Trump shows openness to Chinese and Indian investment in Venezuelan oil while tightening regulations. Milei seeks to deregulate mining in Argentina. Argentine copper shines again internationally. The rise in soybean prices tests Brazil's supply. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.